Pakistani militaries in Kashmir are escalating as India targets Pakistan's air defenses.
Something is happening, not just in the headlines, not just in the skies, but in the very atmosphere around us. Thunderstorms have surged across the land, roaring through towns, shattering tranquility. In an instant, 24 souls are gone. It feels like a warning, a message echoing through the heavens. Come and join us on this journey as we uncover what's happening across the world. Don't forget to hit the bell to subscribe and support our channel. While the skies rumble here in America, a far darker force is brewing overseas. Iran, defiant and unyielding, has issued a threat that transcends mere politics. It resounds spiritually, sending shivers down the spine of those attuned to prophetic whispers. This isn't just about nations, presidents, and alliances. It's about prophecy, about ancient patterns repeating themselves across history. The world dismisses these events as another geopolitical chess game, but spiritually awakened hearts know better. These signs are not mere coincidences. Think back to Pharaoh, who pursued the Israelites, convinced of his impending victory, blind to the hand of God poised to intervene. Pharaoh didn't know that while he was plotting, God was preparing a divine move on the other side of the sea. And when God acted, it wasn't just Israel that witnessed his power, the entire world did. Now the world's eyes are once again fixed on the Middle East. This time, it's not just about oil or territory or politics. It's about something sacred, something ancient awakening. Israel is on edge, tensions mounting like a pressure cooker ready to blow. Gaza is a powder keg. Yemen burns under relentless conflict. And in the midst of it all, U.S. forces move strategically, quietly positioning themselves in critical locations as if bracing for an event they cannot fully understand. The Euphrates River is drying up, not gradually, not symbolically, but tangibly. It's a sign straight from the pages of Revelation. Scientists scramble to explain it, but those who know the Word of God already understand. This is a countdown. And now, there's the Red Sea. The very waters that once split at God's command are now churning with strange movements, underwater shifts, eerie lights, unexplainable phenomena. It's as if the sea remembers the power it once bore witness to, as if it's bracing for the hand of God to move once more. India and Pakistan stand on the brink of a confrontation that transcends borders. The air between them is tense, crackling with the threat of a conflict that has been simmering beneath the surface for decades. And now, that tension is boiling over. But this is not just about military posturing or territorial disputes. It's about prophecy, a pattern that repeats itself throughout history. While the world watches through the lens of political analysis, those attuned to spiritual truths can sense something far deeper at work. India and Pakistan exchange warnings, each side claiming righteousness, each side promising retribution. But behind the headlines, another power moves quietly, strategically: the United States. American forces shift across critical points in the region, military bases seeing sudden activity, ships stationed in strategic waters. What is the U.S. bracing for? What do they foresee that the world has yet to comprehend? Those who understand the prophetic scriptures know that when nations rise against nations, it is not just the sound of war drums. It is the echo of divine judgment. Just as Pharaoh once believed he held the upper hand against Israel, convinced of his invincibility, the modern powers too assume they control the narrative. But they forget God watches from above, and he intervenes when the time is right. America positions its military assets across the Indian Ocean, eyes trained on the Indo-Pakistani border. Diplomats speak of peace, but the soldiers are preparing for something far more ominous. And all the while, signs emerge that point to a greater reckoning. What does it mean? Is the sea preparing to part once more? Is the ground beneath our feet groaning under the weight of prophetic fulfillment? Is America's military presence in the region a sign that they know something the rest of the world does not? These are not just political maneuvers. These are echoes of ancient prophecies, reverberating across the world stage. The earth is groaning, the waters are stirring, and the heavens are watching. The countdown has begun. In the heartland of America, nature is in turmoil. Storms rage at the wrong time of year, as if the seasons themselves have been thrown into chaos. Lightning splits the sky, blindingly bright, yet no thunder follows, just an eerie silence that hangs heavy in the air. In places where tornadoes were once a rarity, they now touch down without warning, ripping through towns, tearing apart homes, and leaving behind paths of destruction. Neighborhoods once untouched now lie in ruins, as if nature is rewriting the map of the Midwest. And before dawn, the sky turns a haunting crimson, a blood-red hue that casts an otherworldly glow over quiet suburbs and city skylines. No one can explain it. Scientists scratch their heads. Meteorologists are at a loss. But to those paying attention, it feels like a warning, a sign that something far more profound is unfolding across the American landscape. Animals sense it. Dogs howl at invisible shadows. Birds fly in disoriented circles, unable to determine direction. It was as if creation itself were trying to warn USA, divine alarm bell tolling for those who were spiritually awakening. But many slept on, eyes open, but no signs were seen. Then the noise. In Oklahoma, in the middle of the night, a noise rent the air, a sound unlike anyone had ever heard. It did not come from the sky or the ground. It came from everywhere, echoing through the air like a powerful, relentless hum. It was not just heard, it was felt in the chest, in the bones, in the depths of the soul. People woke up in fear, running outside looking for answers. Some expected to see sirens or hear explosions. But there was nothing. There was only silence. And that deep, resonant hum, like a trumpet blast from another world. Mary Thompson, a longtime resident of the town, cried as she tried to explain what she felt. "It didn't come from here," she said, her voice shaking. It wasn't a siren. It wasn't a storm. It was like something was calling, like a voice from beyond. And even hours later, her hands were still shaking. Because this wasn't a sound meant to frighten the body. It was meant to awaken the soul. The time of gentle signs was over. Heaven was speaking louder now. But only those who listened, really listened, could hear it. The night had started like any other. Quiet, still, almost eerily still. But something was different. The air was heavy, as if it were holding its breath. Then the sound came. Not thunder, not a siren, but something much deeper, low, strong, unshakable. Like an otherworldly trumpet, it echoed through the air, through the walls, through the very marrow of those who heard it. Within minutes, social media exploded with videos, frantic messages, and posts from people trying to make sense of the inexplicable. Some claim to have heard similar sounds in faraway lands, strange trumpet-like noises that were often overlooked or ignored. But this time, it was different. This time, it was like a Kala divine summons. And as the town gathered outside, drawn by the supernatural sound, they saw it, up in the dark sky. Something began to glow. A radiant figure appeared, enveloped in a light that was not of this world. It was Jesus. Surrounded by angels, his presence filled the sky, an image so holy that no camera could capture it. Hundreds stood transfixed, some knelt, others sobbed. No one spoke, no one moved. Robert Hastings, an elderly man known for his faith, struggled to find words through his sobs. "I never thought I'd see it," he said. But there he was, real, right there. The sky opened and Jesus was there. It was not a dream. It was not a hallucination. It was a moment straight from the Bible. The Gospel of Luke had warned that in the last days there would be signs in the sky, terrifying scenes, images that would shake the earth. That night, in the heart of America, those ancient words came alive. At a time when the world felt as if it were falling apart, With wars raging, truths collapsing, and hearts growing cold, this moment cut through the chaos like lightning cutting through a storm. For those who witnessed it, there was no denying it. This was no coincidence. This was God speaking, trying to get our attention. In the aftermath, questions poured in from every direction. News stations were flooded with calls. Scientists scrambled for explanations. Local authorities tried to make sense of it all. But the truth was simple. They couldn't. There were no storms, no seismic activity, no records of anything unusual. The skies had been clear. The airwaves had been silent. Except for that sound, that one haunting, unshakable sound. And to those who heard it, the message was unmistakable. Wake up. Something is coming. And the time for warning is almost over. The ground had been still, untouched by any tremor or quake. And yet, thousands heard the sound. Thousands saw the sky open. When questioned by reporters, a local police spokesperson shook his head, eyes weary. "We've investigated every possible cause," he said, "but so far, we've got nothing, no explanation." Experts scrambled for theories. They talked about rare atmospheric shifts, magnetic disturbances, even mass hysteria. But deep down, even they knew that none of those explanations fit. Because what happened that night wasn't natural. It was supernatural. For those whose faith anchored them in the unseen, no scientific analysis was necessary. They didn't need to check radar systems or analyze seismic data. They knew in their spirits what they had seen and heard: a divine message, a wake-up call, a piercing reminder that heaven's warnings are growing louder. God, full of mercy and longing for his people to return, was calling them back. Sarah Delroy, a local pastor, spoke to the media with quiet certainty. "We've been looking down for too long," she said, her eyes shining with conviction. "Down at our phones, our screens, our problems. But tonight, God made us look up. And once you've seen the sky open and heard a sound that shakes your soul, you can't just go back to sleep. Not now. Not when heaven is speaking this loud." What happened in Oklahoma didn't stay in Oklahoma. Within hours, footage of the event flooded news feeds and social media timelines worldwide. Eyewitness testimonies were translated into multiple languages, and people from every corner of the globe began to ask the same haunting questions. Was it real? Could something spiritual actually be happening? What if the Bible has been right all along? While skeptics labeled it mass hysteria, the sheer volume of first-hand accounts made it impossible to dismiss. People from different cities, different faiths, and even atheists began to share eerily similar stories. They had heard the sound, they had seen the sky shift, and they had felt something deep, unsettling, and undeniable. This wasn't hype. This wasn't another internet hoax. This was an awakening. The questions grew louder with each passing day. If this was the first sign, what would come next? Would there be more sounds? More visions? Would the signs intensify until no one could look away? No one had definitive answers. Not the scientists, not the government officials, not even the pastors who had spent decades preaching about days like these. But one truth was undeniable. Something had torn through the veil that night. Something profound, something unexplainable, and the impact was still being felt. Chief Robert Johnson, a man known for his level-headedness, stood before the cameras, his face drawn and somber. "Right now," he said, "we don't have a natural explanation for what so many people claim to have witnessed." And that's when more reports started to pour in, not just from the town but from the rural farms surrounding Oklahoma. Residents described sights that defied logic, phenomena that felt more like a message from the divine than a mere coincidence. Across small towns and farmlands, people claimed to have seen strange, unearthly lights piercing through the night sky, radiant beams that hovered without a source, casting an ethereal glow that moved like liquid gold. Farmers reported that before the sound shattered the stillness, the statue of Christ outside the small chapel on Route 46 began to shine. Its marble eyes seemed to glow with an inner fire, and a soft, golden light pulsed from the figure's chest as if it were alive. "It wasn't the headlights from cars," said Margaret Cole, a woman who had lived in the town for over 60 years. "I've seen that statue every day of my life. But that night, it was different. The light wasn't from this world. It was as if it was radiating from within." One farmer's hands shook as he recounted the scene. "The sheep wouldn't go into the barn.